Hi, it's Karina. Today we are making pirozhki. Pirozhki are little buns made out of yeast dough, most commonly, and they are very common food in Russia. Every household makes them, they are sold everywhere, on every street corner, markets, etc. So today I'm going to show you how to make two types of them, baked and fried ones. The dough is slightly different, so that's why I'm going to show you both types of dough, and I'm still thinking about it whether I will show two or perhaps three types of filling. So let's start. So we're going to make yeast dough now, right? So 300 mils of pleasantly warm, like bath water. So 12 grams of yeast. We reactivate the yeast. Mind you, my yeast is near expiry date. So this way we make sure that it will work actually. Which should be around 10 minutes. We should be able to see like little bubbles and like a sort of foam on the surface of water. Yeast is not too old, it's actually all right, so we can use it. We will measure 500 grams of flour. So these days I try to add wholemeal flour everywhere, even in the pancakes I made in the morning for kids. A little bit I sneak in. So we will add a couple of handfuls of wholemeal flour. That would make, won't be too noticeable, but around say 100 grams out of 500 would be wholemeal, which obviously texture will be slightly rougher, but it's better for us. Just let's leave a little bit of flour here, just in case it's going to be too much. Because although this proportion 300 liquid and 500 flour is kind of very basic proportion, because I use strong flour here, I could well need less. So depending on the flour, it could be quite some variations, let's just say. Quickly make a dough, 5 more minutes, no more. We're aiming for a soft dough here. So we used almost all, but that much of 500 in this instance. A few more energetic kneads. Done. That's it, one dough is ready. This one is for frying. And I put it to proof. So our second batch of dough, which is for baking, 500 grams of flour to include 2 handfuls of wholemeal. We need to add some, make it richer basically, add some, I will use half milk, half water, and I will add oil to the dough. It should be oil or butter, something like that. Otherwise, it won't be nice. It will be just a bread if we won't add a little bit of oil. Obviously, knowing me, I'll keep it to absolute minimum. Balance between healthiness and taste. Let's do 150 of hot water, right, and 150 of cold milk, which is nice warm, like bath water, I would say. I would add just a tiny pinch of sugar just to feed the yeast, which I should have actually done, you know, should have done it with the first batch as well. So 12 grams, it's this large tablespoon, slightly heaped full. Sprinkle is there, little light mix, and let it sort of proof. We can skip this step of activating the yeast altogether, especially if the yeast is fresh. The dough will rise perfectly well in my experience, and I used to skip this step. But since my actually yeast expires this month, and it kind of makes perfect sense as well. So in a warm, nice, pleasant warm milk and a tiny bit of sugar, which is supposed to help as well. So we let them grow first, multiply, and then we would add flour. Activating yeast will speed up the dough rising. By all means, I can add oil now at this point, but it kind of doesn't help dough to rise. If there is no oil or fat there, it will rise better. So once it risen, once it will proof once, then we will add oil at this point. When we fry pirozhki, we don't need oily dough because it will absorb lots of oil as it will be frying. Salt. I always forget adding salt to the dough, but yeah, it won't harm. I will reserve about a little bit, basically, on the bottom of this bowl, so our activated liquid all goes in. At this point we add the flour carefully. We don't want a stiff dough. The rest of the action on the surface. Bit more kneading. Just this morning I sneaked in some wholemeal flour into my grandkids' pancakes. Makes me ever so slightly less guilty feeding them all that sugar in the morning, because pancakes obviously came with chocolate sauce, which I make myself. See, that much flour is left. And cling film on top, or you can use a plastic bag if you. Right, so there, as you can see, so with the oiled hand, so we just knock it down. Cover it again and let it proof one more time, and second time usually it proofs faster. So now on our dough proofed second time, proofed, i.e. meaning risen, lightly oiling my hands. So I'm knocking it down, bringing it right way down. So now it's ready to be handled and turned into our goodies. This is our plain one, the one which is for fried pirozhki. So my other one, this is the richer one. So the one which is for baking, the one which we want to make richer, I'm adding oil to it. 4 large tablespoons of oil. Work it in to enrich it. Or it could have been melted butter. If I would add a little bit of sugar to the dough, and I would say butter, then it would be great with apples or cherries. Right, so don't be afraid of yeast dough. It's quite simple, really. You can let it proof more than twice, let it proof more, knock it second time, let it rise again, third time. It will only improve. If it's not rising after 1 hour, it could take much longer actually. It could take maybe up to 5 hours if your room is quite cold, or if your dough is quite heavy or quite rich with butter and sugar. It would take longer. So at any point just leave it. It will rise eventually. You can put it at any point to the fridge, continue next day. So as long as you follow this basic procedure, let it rise, i.e. proof, bring it down, let it rise second time, and after that you can actually handle it and it's ready to be cooked. So I'm going to show you 3 fillings here. The baked pirozhki we would make with cabbage. Sounds cabbage, but trust me, it would be very nice. And the other half of baked pirozhki we would make with feta cheese and spinach. And the fried pirozhki we would make the absolute classic, and my favorite actually, it's a potato and onion filling. For the portion of a dough we would need a ½ kilo or so of potatoes and a couple of onions, of good sized onions. So we want filling to be quite oniony, peppery, quite intense. I would put some sort of herb, say dill, and lots of black pepper. Onions we chop and fry. Half would go to cabbage filling, half to potato filling. Finally chopping our cabbage. Cabbage pirozhki may be of acquired taste, but I love them. And if we have too much filling, so much the better. I would never say no to the cooked, nicely cooked cabbage. My Russian soul speaking, I'm sure. Again, I'm looking for quite a pungent, sort of strong tasting filling here. The pickled cabbage, sauerkraut. So it's going to be a mix of two cabbages. It should open now, yeah. So see, it's divine. So the way to eat sauerkraut is with lots of oil and raw onions, finely sliced. You can cook it with pork, your sausages, but that's another story. How goldy they are, it's rapeseed oil. For cooking, I only use rapeseed oil. It has all the goodness of olive oil, but much more stable when used at high temperatures. Because if I would have soup cooking, I would pour this potato stock to it. They're very, very soft and well salty, because the water was salty. Not necessarily should be very smooth mush, just as long as they are kind of mashed will do. Okay, then I'm adding to that quite a lot of black pepper. I mean, if it's for kids, obviously I'll take a lighter hand. They would not approve of too much black pepper. And I have here dry dill. If I would have fresh dill, so much the better, but I don't. So dry dill, quite a lot, right? Loads actually. And then our fried onions. So half of the onions will go in and half we will reserve for our cabbage filling. And a couple of spring onions, white bits only, very finely chopped for the extra crunch. So our filling is ready. Good stir. Sour cabbage to your taste. I would add good amount and plenty of black pepper. Right, so the cabbage cooked right down. Let's try. It's still quite hard, so I'll add tiny bit of water, cover it with a lid and cook on longer. So cabbage is still cooking, but we can start making the potato pirozhki. So we are cooking and chatting. The dough did rise. It's third time already. Only improves. This big piece weighs almost nothing. It's just a ball of air, really, at this moment of time. The dough keeps in the fridge very well for a good few days, and it freezes very well too. A generous amount of filling. As you can see, filling is very easy to deal with because it's kind of stick together. Flour your fingers like that. Potato pirozhkis are quite large, and obviously it's easier for us to make. They're supposed to be quite large. And that's your pirozhok. Make sure there is plenty of flour under, so they won't stick when the time will come to fry them. Once your pirozhki are formed, do not fry or bake them right away. They need to rest a little bit, and they would puff up considerably again, effectively proving one more time. This is a very important step. Do not skip it. So quickly to recap, first you activate the yeast. It's very convenient to use this instant yeast. Basic bread dough, I would say, and then so it's good for fried pirozhki. Rice meaning proof, the terminology is used there. So you let it proof, bring it all the way down, sort of knead it lightly so it goes right way back down. And then you let it proof one more time, which would happen faster. Now you know how to make a yeast dough. Our third filling, we simply put half a pack of spinach. Normally the portion of dough I gave you, whole pack of spinach, of fresh spinach, which is about 250 grams of raw spinach. Just on a dry pan, just as it is, no oil or anything, we want to wilt it quickly. At least a pack of feta cheese. Although feta is quite salty, it still takes some salt. this is all what it is. Half a pack of spinach. It cooked down to nothing in a couple of minutes, literally. Right, so even that I will squeeze. It becomes nothing. Right, so I'll chop it. And those 2 pieces of spring onion, 2, which I would very finely chop. I will also add some olive oil. So feta, olive oil, spinach, 2 types of baked pirozhki with cabbage. Russian, as Russian as it comes. And kind of Middle Eastern, I would say. So the cabbage pirozhki we could either bake or fry. Either way. To bake them, I will add some olive oil, not authentic, I know. Second dough, which is richer and has lots of oil in. It had also risen, third time. Let's deal with this. Those I probably will do a bit smaller than they are nicer, smaller, more delicate. The cheese ones, maybe first. They keep rising right in front of my eyes. A little bit of patience when wrapping cabbage in. I'll leave some dough for tomorrow. I have plans for it. Okay, so a little bit of oil on a tray. So we're gonna make them and place them directly on a tray to proof a little bit before they go to the oven. Leave a space between them as they will puff up in the oven.
Meanwhile, the potato ones puffed up a lot.
You can't even see the seam anymore, just balls of fluff, pure fluff, so soft. They weigh nothing, literally, it's all air. This is as close as I come to deep frying. A bit of guessing game whether the oil is hot. You try to put them to the hot oil, but not too hot, because they will kind of burn. And not too cold because they will take oil in. But if they make this kind of lovely sound straight away, we are good. Medium to high heat. We're aiming for nice goldy color. So they're gonna puff up even more in the hot oil.
The baked pirozhki we brush up with egg just before the oven.
This puffed up as well. And to the oven they go. Want them to be pink on all sides. Goldy, not pink.
And the baked buns are ready too.